What is going on, Bit Crew? Welcome to a new episode of Pixel News, where we've got some very exciting news about a new update for Luma custom firmware, that's update 8.0, and an update to Boot9Strap up to 1.2. Now we're going to go break down the details, what's been added, the new features, what they do. So let's jump into this, you guys. So because Boot9Strap has a smaller changelog and kind of less exciting stuff going on, I'm just going to go over that real quick. They fixed some critical bugs that were in the 1.0 release, which was a little bit rushed, so they fixed some of that critical stuff. They fixed some bugs. They've also added further improvements to overall system ability, and other minor adjustments have been made to enhance the user experience. Of course they did that. Priorities, right? They've done some other stuff, but most of it is just fixing up bugs and getting it all set up and making it all user-friendly. Now let's jump into the Luma 8.0 update, because it is seriously awesome and great. And it adds so much stuff that just revolutionizes custom firmware on 3DS, and we're just getting closer and closer to having our own all-in-one custom firmware and getting away from NTR, because this app implements quite a few things that NTR actually does. Honestly, if Luma custom firmware could video stream, there wouldn't be much reason to still continue to use NTR. So in Luma 8.0, they introduced Rosalina, which is a custom system module for the 3DS, and it adds tons of features that you can access and use while you're in your system playing. In order to use Luma Custom Firmware 8.0, you do have to update your Boot9Strap. Luma Custom Firmware and Boot9Strap are currently going hand in hand right now. You need Boot9Strap for Luma Custom Firmware, you need Luma Custom Firmware for Boot9Strap, because they're just like peanut butter and jelly right now. I don't know if it's always going to be that way, if you're always going to have to update them simultaneously, but for right now, you have to update them simultaneously. You have to update them in order too, because you can't update Luma Custom Firmware. You actually have to update Luma Custom Firmware last. Anyways, the first thing that they added was a menu that you can actually open by pressing L down on the D-pad and select. In this menu, you can access a couple different things. You can get a sub-menu that has some processes on it for debugging. There's options for new 3DS clock. There's a battery percentage. You can actually see what your 3DS battery is in percent, which is really cool. You can also screenshot. Now, screenshotting is pretty slow. I mean, it took me like 15 to 20 seconds just to get a single screenshot to produce. So I don't know if people are really going to use that, but it's there, and I'm sure it's going to get faster and better, just like all these features will. Next up is input redirection, you guys. Being able to use your Xbox One, Xbox 360, X-input controllers on your 3DS wirelessly via your computer. This was something that was originally kind of used hand in hand with NTR, where you launched NTR, you launched input redirection, you turned on debugging mode on NTR, and you were able to network with your computer, and your computer was able to translate and send the commands from your controller to your 3DS, and thus control your 3DS wirelessly. It's awesome. It's so awesome. Now, this functionality is baked straight into Luma custom firmware. You can get a little program on your computer to be able to connect to the IP address on your 3DS, and you can thus use, which this controller is probably going to be green screen, but you can use Xbox controllers on your 3DS. That is really cool because it's baked straight into Luma, and that's one less application you need. And this is actually faster. I believe this is actually less lag, not to mention that the C stick and Z buttons are actually added into this, where they were not present in the previous input redirection. So you're able to actually now use all the buttons on the new 3DS on your controller. So I tried this with Zelda Majora's Mask, and I tried it with Super Smash Brothers, and I could not actually get the camera stick to do anything. I couldn't get the Z buttons to do anything. However, when I loaded Halo Revamped, which is homebrew I ported to the 3DS, I was able to actually use all the buttons, including the camera stick. And it was amazing, like playing like a Halo style game with dual analog sticks and triggers like for shooting. Oh my gosh, it felt like it should. So there's that, you guys. Now this next feature is probably the biggest out of all the features of Luma Custom Firmware 8.0, and that is 3DSX loading. Now if you don't know what a 3DSX file, and you're a 3DS modder, you should actually know what it is, but if you don't know what it is, it's basically a homebrew format. It's basically like a custom 3DS file format. Now normally you had to use Homebrew Launcher to be able to access your 3DSX files, or you had to use Homebrew Launcher CIA to be able to get to your 3DSX files and load them that way. But now you can actually load 3DSX files straight through Luma Custom Firmware in the settings, and it's actually pretty awesome. You also get the home menu accessibility. You can be on the browser and stuff while you're playing your 3DSX homebrew, and you can do anything on this 3DSX like you can do on any other CIA file. It's awesome. You can even use NTR to video stream your 3dsX file plays. Apparently HAX payloads aren't needed anymore, and I could not get my previous HAX payloads to work because we actually have Homebrew Launcher 2.0 now thanks to Finks. And it is beautiful, you guys. I'm actually gonna be making a separate video on that, but the new Homebrew Launcher is beautiful. It's now using the GPU and it's so smooth, the home menu access, and it builds straight into Luma. Muchísimo. Getting your 3dsX file to load is actually kind of interesting and has an added benefit. In order to get 3dsX file to load, you're gonna have to load some sort of CIA game. So let's say I load up Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'll then load up the game. I'll activate the Luma custom firmware menu by pressing L down and select, and then I will go to miscellaneous and inject my 3dsX file, my boot.3dsX file that's on the root of my SD card into this title. And then I'm gonna close the title, reopen it, and it's gonna reopen that boot.3dsX file and bring me to the Homebrew Launcher 2.0. So really awesome, really revolutionary. I can't believe HAX is kind of phasing out. We are truly in the next generation of 3DS modding, you guys, and Luma custom firmware continues to push the boundaries, and we're not even done. We have better language emulation and region emulation, so if you want to play games that are out of region, well, it's better now, and all games are apparently supported. There's also a fully featured GDB stub, which is good for developers trying to debug and find like processes within games and stuff. I'm not a developer, so I don't totally know what's going on with all the system calls, and I've ported a homebrew, but it wasn't very heavy with engine programming, so. But it's always nice to have a little extra debugging so developers can get in there and find what they're looking for and do extraordinarily awesome things. A user on Reddit described it pretty good. Nutella is delicious. He described how it's been and what this GDB tool will actually do. He says on the second half, GDB is a tool for debugging applications. I use it for desktop applications. It allows you to look at the internals of the program while the program is running so you can get current variable values. You can backtrace when your application crashes and much more. It's a huge leap forward for debugging 3DS applications. A major pat on the back to Aurora Wright and Starry 2001 for this feature. It's a huge help. Now that they've created this GDB stub specifically for the 3DS, they can now basically debug with their computer, go into the 3DS, and I can only imagine it's going to be much faster. And like I said, they're going to continue to do some awesome things. So yeah, guys, that is Boot9Strap Update 1.2 and Luma Custom Firmware 8.0. You guys, super excited to see what comes next from the 3DS hacking community. Let me know what you guys think about these updates in the comment section below. There should also be a video posting kind of right alongside this, maybe a little after it, of how to actually update your Boot9Strap and Luma Custom Firmware 8.0 if you already have previous Luma Custom Firmware and previous Boot9Strap. So if you need a little guidance, you want to see how it's visually done, I will link that in the description so you guys can check that out. Anyways, guys, please like it up, subscribe it up, and I'll catch all of you guys future videos and live streams. Peace out, dudes.